Hey, and welcome back to Pages, Picks, and Pans. And you'll notice I've ditched the old paper. It was time for a change. This week is also a little bit different because I am going to do not one or two, but 5 DVDs. I got these at rental for my birthday. I asked the video store owner to just pick me 5 and surprise me, and he did really well. These are all picks. So I started with Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, which I was sure I had seen already, but in fact I had not. I saw Valley of the Dolls, which is also not a prequel. In fact, this one flashes up a great big disclaimer right at the start to say that it's not related to Valley of the Dolls because they threatened to sue. But all that it contains is 3/4 of the title and the slightest hint of the plot. It is a glorious, wacky romp of a film. It is full of TNA. It is full of some great music, like very typical of that era. It was released in 1970, so you've got that late 60s kind of feel. The Strawberry Alarm Clock appears in there, and they were a very hip band from that era in the San Francisco area, in the Bay Area. So this is set in LA. It is a time capsule of that era in the same way that if I wrote something like now about hipsters but had never met a hipster, that's the kind of film that this would end up as. Right after I finished watching it, I watched it a second time with the commentary track by Roger Ebert, and that was just a joy. I miss Ebert. I was raised on his reviews. He may have won the Pulitzer Prize, but it definitely wasn't for this script. Although the one thing this does do, you're never bored. You're never, ever going to be tired of watching the screen on this film. It is wacky and wild and worth your time. Next up is the classic Bringing Up Baby, screwball comedy, Katharine Hepburn at her wacky best, leopards, Cary Grant in a beautiful fur-lined housecoat, misunderstandings, slapstick, you name it. It's in here. It's black and white. It's fun. Worth your time. After that, a little dip into some animation. Song of the Sea. It is a beautiful Irish film. If you've seen Secret of the Kells, it is the same animation company. If you're familiar with Miyazaki, you should start checking out this animation house too, because it's a different vibe. I would say their animation style is less realistic and more artistic, but it is beautiful and magical, and the story in this is heartwarming, and it will leave you smiling, I think. So, Song of the Sea, worth your time. They're all worth your time. I mentioned that. Next up is the slightly twisted Mongrel Media release, the Brass Teapot. Now, I hadn't heard of this, but I'm very familiar with Mongrel Media. They've just released their own streaming platform in Canada, and this is okay. Basic plot is 2 young adults, financially troubled. They find a teapot that gifts money in exchange for pain. And I think you can guess how many different ways that's going to go wrong. And it does. But by the end of it, I left smiling, which is always a good sign of a good roller coaster of a film. Great performances by pretty lesser known actors in this. Yeah, pick this one up if you can, or seek it out streaming. And the last film is sort of a fill-in-the-blank film for me, 1981 French cinema. This apparently kicked off the new wave of French cinema. It is in that sort of bridge between the very character and plot-driven long-form 1970s filmmaking and the quick edit, disjointed, visual first filmmaking of the 80s. So this is like somewhere in between. It is at times visually arresting, like to the point where I paused to look at the screen. There are some extraordinary framing shots in here. There is the wildest police chase through the metro that is unbelievable until you see it on screen. I'm a big fan of weird chases. Like, one of my favorite films is the original Italian Job, so that should give you an idea. Diva has a little bit of everything. It has good cops and crooked cops. It's got a little bit of sex. It's got the most amazing opera diva. It's got cars everywhere. Cars play quite a role, and recordings play a big role in this. So it's very much also locked in time with reel-to-reel and cassette tapes and magnetic media, but it is nonetheless fascinating to watch and something that I had to really focus on. I couldn't really look away because it's definitely not fully linear in its storytelling. It jumps around from person to person. So again, worth your time. So Diva, Brass Teapot, Song of the Sea, Bringing Up Baby, and Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. And if you don't have a DVD store near you, check out your local library. Look at what alternate streaming services there might be out there, because some of these are going to be on things like the Criterion Channel, or Mongrel Media in Canada now has their own streaming. Look for those other alternative streamers, or support your local video store if you've got one. And until next time, this is Paige. Those are my picks. Bye.